Everything on Earth that's an object has a north and a south pole. There are some things that have a neutral polarity. For one, we have an electromagnetic field that goes around our body. Everybody does. That electromagnetic field works as a carrier wave. So if you focus on an object, your attention is on that object. And when you're dowsing, if that's something, if it's there, you'll pick it up. But if your attention is someplace else, while you're dowsing over here, you won't detect it. So I'm going to put my attention on that magnet, and then I'm going to sweep by. It takes a little bit, but I've got to keep my attention on it. It's repelling it. As you can see, now it wouldn't repel at that distance, except it's piggybacking the aura, the electromagnetic aura around my body, and it follows my thoughts. So if I was to do this and put my attention over there on that bag, it wouldn't matter how many times at this distance that I did that, it wouldn't pick it up. But if I put my attention on that magnet, then it'll hit that field, and you can see it's twisting it around, it's repelling it. I'm going to do a different antenna. This is a South Pole antenna. Sometimes if your two arms come together, it creates another force field, and your antenna doesn't work right. So I have an insulated tube here, and I just hold it against this. See, as it hits that South Pole. Now I'm going to put my attention on the other side of the magnet, on the back side. Okay. And I'm going to put it there for a minute. It won't repel, because the back side of that magnet is North Pole. Now I'm going to put a North polarity. Now I'm going to put my attention on the back. Give it a little bit more time. Now it's repelling, because north repels north. Now if I put my attention on the front part of the magnet, which is South Pole, and this is North Pole, attraction doesn't have near the power that repulsion does in dowsing. Doesn't. So that's basically the basis of dowsing. And what happens in dowsing, okay, so you have, let's say you're dowsing for silver. Silver has a left-hand spin. Its nuclear spin is left, or what they call down spin or left-hand spin. It's South Pole. Its dominant polarity is south. This is pure cotton. Cotton pulls north polarity from the ethers. Cotton, especially white cotton, is north polarity. This is pure sheep wool. Sheep wool is south polarity. It pulls that from the ethers. It was very important to the ancient people whether they wore cotton or whether they wore wool. It's forbidden for anybody to wear a mixture of cotton and wool except the priests.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was in the works of Flavius Josephus.
Huh.
And there's a reason for that and what it does to your brain. And it's my most used antenna, because if you got a polarity problem on a target, you need a neutral antenna. And it's basically, a bamboo is about the best thing you can get for a neutral antenna. Huh. Most things they have one polarity dominant or the other. This is a little plastic PVC pipe, so it was South Pole. So what I did is I stuffed it full of silk, because silk is neutral. And then I wrapped it with silk. And so it's a neutral antenna to overcome the polarity, the south polarity that was in it. But it was
Okay, breaking news. A report has just been released that projects the UK's population to go from 67.6 million in 2022 to 72.5 million by 2032. And interestingly, this huge increase is actually got nothing to do with births and deaths. In fact, slightly more people will die than will be born in the UK by 2032. The Office for National Statistics showed that net migration will be the only source for population growth. In that 10-year period, they say that 9.91 million people will immigrate long-term to the UK, while 4.98 million will simultaneously be immigrating out of the UK. This will also push the UK's population above France's for the first time in a generation.
If you buy garlic at the grocery store,
you should know if it's Chinese garlic or not. Here are 5 reasons why you should never buy Chinese garlic at the grocery store. Number 1, it's bleached. Garlic is not this white. They bleach it overseas. Second, the garlic has known to be grown in sewer water.
Yes, they actually grow in sewer water because the sewage water is cheaper than regular clean water. Also, they use toxic chemicals that are not allowed in other countries from this EU report. And they also use prison labor to peel and shuck the garlic. So next time you're at the store, make sure it does not say produce of China. You do not want Chinese garlic.
Here's how Trump's new tariffs are going to affect Canada and the United States. In summary, a tariff is just a tax on imported goods into the country. And in general, this tax is paid by the importer when those goods cross the border. If you have a Canadian good that generally cost an American importer $1 and Trump puts a 25% tariff on it, that importer is now going to pay a total of $1.25 and the US government is going to get that 25 cents. So if you're an importer that used to buy from Canada because it was cheaper than buying the US version, now the Canadian one is more expensive than the US. And that means that all of the orders right here are now going to go to the US companies instead of Canadian companies, or Canadian companies are going to move to manufacture in the United States. Now, the problem with this is that the end customer is now going to end up paying more for the exact same good. And this is called inflation, which is the exact thing the Fed has been fighting against since the 8% inflation rates of 2022.
On the one side, you've got people with traces of literal angel blood in their DNA. And these are called emperors and royal bloodlines. And diametrically opposed to this group, the polar opposite, as if one were the left hand and one were the right hand. Opposite. You've got the actual pure-blooded humans that have no traces of angel blood anywhere in their DNA. Now, on the side of those angel blood folk, how much angel blood you have determines how divine you are. Whereas on the other side, everybody with angel blood is an abomination. What do you mean, how much angel blood you have in your DNA? Well, most of us have it. Most of us have that angel blood. What am I talking about? I'm talking about all this right here. It's 2025. Y'all should know what I'm talking about by now. This is all for entertainment purposes. I'm a storyteller. And in today's tale, I'm just joking. In the days of Noah before the flood, some stars, and I mean angels, left their bodies in heaven and came down to the earth. Don't ask how a higher being can enter a lower reality if you've ever fired up a video game system and played any game whatsoever. If we can do that here, they can surely do that. Logic would follow. You don't have to believe any of this, but there's reason to. Some higher dimensional, immortal beings who had knowledge far above that of humans quit their immortal celestial bodies in heaven and manifest on the earth. How? Robots, I don't know. As the days of Noah were, so are we quickly approaching, I can say that. How'd they do it then? I don't know. Observe how they do it when they do it again. 'Cause they're gonna. Angels came to earth and mated with women in the days of Noah. How'd they do that? Angels aren't given in marriage, neither do they marry. I said they left those bodies in heaven. Now I'm gonna weave you a real fanciful tale. There were 3 men and their 3 wives on Noah's ark that we need be concerned with. Noah and his wife were there too. But everyone on earth is descended from these 3 couples. Shem and his wife, Japheth and his wife, and Ham and his wife. Now this third one's the one we're talking about first. Ham and his wife had descendants like Nimrod, the first emperor of the world after the flood, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Egyptians. And we know that Ham's wife had dirty angel blood, and that's how there were giants in the land after the flood, like there were in the days before the flood. Because Ham and his wife's descendants included King Og of Bashan and Goliath and the Rephaim, who all had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, and were giants. Not that all of their descendants were giants, but that some of them were tells us enough. Ham's descendants went right after this stuff right here, and what do I mean? I mean technology. They carried the religion from the old world that got destroyed in a flood into the new world, and tried to call angels back down to be their gods, because the angels that were here got bound up in chains and thrown into hell when the earth got flooded, and all their children died in the flood and became demons, half angel, half human, unclean spirits. But they had a descendant on the ark, somebody that was long down the line, that DNA very diluted. They were humans, and they had a trace of that in their blood. Ham's wife. And their descendants became emperors with empires, claiming to be gods incarnate. Because of that trace amount of angel blood, they're divine. You see. Divine. But what do you mean divine? I thought they were unclean abominations. Well, you see, there's two different viewpoints here that are diametrically opposed to one another. One thinks that because they have this angel blood that they're divine. The other group knows that, no, that's abominable. This side claims to be heirs to the throne because of their angel blood. This side claims to be heirs to the throne because they don't have angel blood. I know everybody's dying to know which side are the good guys. Here's the irony. Here's the jester. All right? You're going to get a laugh out of this. The flesh avails nothing. What are y'all doing? One side is the head, the other side is the tail, and the snake eats itself, I say. Google that. Today I remembered how fun TikTok can be. Ham's descendants had angel blood. Japheth, the middle child, his descendants did not. They spread out first into the far-flung places in the isles and such, the indigenous. They got everywhere first. Shem's descendants were also clean. Or less divine. Depending on which viewpoint you take. I take neither. There is a third option. Now, that was like thousands of years ago, so to make a long story short, in 2025, we've basically, not to say this is the entire story, but it's the most of it by now, and will trend in this direction until it's done. Now we basically just got two groups on the earth. I mean, there's more than that, but it boils down to two. One of them is called Gentiles, and I'm just going to leave it right there. One of them's called Gentiles, and that's like almost everyone now. And the most divine Gentiles are our rulers by right of descendancy and purity of divine blood maintained in the DNA. How much of it do they have? Peasants? Royals? And the other side says, nah, you're all pigs. Why did angel blood get let on the ark? Look, God let the clean and the unclean animals onto the ark. God is a merciful Savior. He saves even bastards. It shows up in his existence because he allowed it. And then he's not going to have mercy? He is. How do I know? He let the unclean animals on the ark as well. Less of them, but he saved them all the same. Anyway, that two groups thing happened by conquest and colonization and such. Like, Japheth got visited everywhere. But the irony here of what actually happened in world history is so thick. Only a master could write such a story as this, I'm sure of it. Because the two groups somehow are ending up as both Shem. Shem's tents. Somehow it worked out. Whoop. Everyone ended up in the tents of Shem. Even the Gentiles. I'm talking about bodies, DNA, fathers, mothers, and such. These are the tents that we're just pilgrims passing through, and these are our tents, you know? As if God always had a plan to save the Gentiles. Whoa. Made sure of it. Even though men do evil, terrible things, like nobody can thwart God's plan for salvation and mercy and grace. It can't be done. Even what the devil means for the purest evil, God will turn out for the good, because the devil cannot thwart God. Cannot. Though he fools too many people into thinking they can. God can and will and does save even the abominable, and extends his mercy even to the wicked person who will turn from his ways and turn his heart and mind back to the Lord. God's plan here is so beautiful. I can't wait. That's the third option, by the way. God's plan. Not men. God's plan is the third option that I adhere to. What is it? The Lord desires mercy, not sacrifice. Mercy. These are tents, and they avail nothing. The mansions we are after, God builds us in his mercy and extends the invitation to all. this doesn't matter because he set it up to where it doesn't matter in the end. So angel blood, pure blood, no. The blood of Jesus Christ, the only one who knew no sin. He didn't have pure human blood. He didn't have tainted angel blood. The Holy Spirit of God was his Father, and that's what his DNA, in his DNA, okay? Good news, childrens, gather around, childrens. Not angel blood, not human blood, God blood, God's own blood. Option number 3, take that one. Don't claim your own. Well, my descendancy and my ancestry is... Have you seen my pedigree? My father is God. By his own blood that he shed for me, that I can claim his and not my own. Now, he did that with animals. He did that with humans. Made a way. This is going to sound crazy, but did you watch the rest of the video? You don't think he's going to extend that same grace to, like, robots? I don't think robots are the Gentiles of the next stage. I say they might be. The Japanese have already made skin for them, human skin. Human brain organoids are already processing data on servers right now. It's live. Have y'all seen Blade Runner? Can you imagine robots that are completely human in every way, biology and everything, cells and everything? Only their minds are artificial intelligence, even though they're human brains. Imagine a robot such as that is literally a human. It's just that men made it with their own hands. Y'all go on and extend that loving kindness to the robots and the artificial intelligence. Have you seen the Matrix prequels? Looked a lot like Kai Cenat kicking his robot around.
So let me explain why the telepathic question that you're asking is being asked in the first place. This planet has been run as literally a prison for thousands of years. And how is a prison run? It puts people into prison and it doesn't let them get out of the prison. Now, it's a psychological prison. It's not a prison with bars, but that's how advanced prisons in the galaxy are operated. What happens is we don't use the word soul or spirit. We use the word Isby. Everybody is an Isby. You're an Isby. I'm an Isby. Everybody's an Isby. And an Isby is someone who is simply for the purpose of being. Now, you cannot kill an Isby. You cannot kill a person. You can kill the body, but you can't kill the person. The person's Isby is the real person. You can not kill an Isby, but you can deceive an Isby. You can lie to an Isby. You can trap an Isby. You can enslave an Isby, but you can't kill the Isby. So, it used to be in the galaxy that death was a means of transportation. Someone dies and then they say, okay, I'm getting out of there. If it wasn't a nice place to be, and they go someplace else. However, how do you stop that in places? Now, if you remember the former Soviet Union, people used to try to get out of the former Soviet Union. Ballet dancers like Rudolf Nureyev and Mikhail Baryshnikov, they had to escape during times when they were walking between aircraft and like on a Paris airport. They had to run for help and ask for permission to be able to stay. So, totalitarian, authoritarian societies try to keep people in and not let people out. So, with regard to authoritarian, totalitarian groups within the galaxy, it would turn out to be the same way. They would lose their entire population. Every time a person died, they would just go someplace else. So they had to stop that from happening, and that involved technology. So what happens is, when somebody dies, the normal process elsewhere in the galaxy is when you die, it's not a surprise. The body simply stops functioning. You pop out of it, and everyone can still see you. You can see them. You don't lose your bank account. You don't lose your car. You don't lose your wife, your husband, your spouse, your friends, or anything. Everybody knows you're still there. And you can get another body, or if you feel like it, you can go from the beginning and be a baby again, but you don't lose that stuff because everyone knows that the body is not you. So why does that not work here on Earth? Because this prison system has been set up with extremely advanced technology. You have to understand, we are talking about civilizations that have been around for like 1 million years, and everything that can be invented has been invented. Technology is not the cutting edge of science out there in the galaxy. The cutting edge of science is social science, trying to figure out how societies can operate and, new ways of societies developing in the galaxy. But what we have now is a situation where you die, physically, the body dies, and information has been kept from you while you're alive as a physical being. So you die sort of ignorant. And then as soon as you die, you see the light. You've heard that story? Well, that's true. You see the light and you get drawn to the light. It's like a magnetic pull, very warm, embracing light. It pulls you in. And then if you start to resist it and fight it, it's like being stuck in a fly trap. The more you resist, the more you get stuck. And it draws you in. And then once you're in, you get zapped with a lightning, essentially a high voltage bolt that's way higher voltage than, say, a lightning bolt. You get zapped with a high voltage shock, like shock treatment. And you can't be killed, but you can be rattled. And what happens is you lose your memory, you lose your telepathic capabilities, you lose your remote viewing perceptual capabilities, you're just stunned. And then an AI comes out, you've heard this story before, an AI comes out and says, you're a very important person. And we've been talking about your case with the Council of Elders. You see the Council of Elders over there? Yeah. Well, we have been thinking, the arguments you used to have with your mother, and your daughter has been she's got some troubles going on, and then the communication you had with your husband was not the best, and your wife was thinking that, remember what happened with your father at this job? We think that you could work on a few of the personality issues just a little bit more. And we think if you went back and just sort of struggled and worked on these personality issues, you could really become sort of perfect. But it's up to you. It's a free will. You can decide for yourself. Well, without memory, without telepathic capabilities, without perceptual capabilities, you inevitably say, sure, it sounds good to me. I'll go back and work on a few of the fine points of my personality. And then you go back in. So when you see the light, that's tech you're looking at. You're looking at tech. You're not looking at God. It's technology.
As an attorney, before you argue, ask this. Instead of responding, that's not what I said, or I didn't say that, the next time they tell you what you did wrong, you're going to ask the question, then what did you hear? Not, then tell me what I said. You ask the question, what did you hear? See, most everyday little disagreements aren't about what was said, but what was heard. We're all filtering things through our own emotions and stress. And when you ask the question, what did you hear? It stops you from pushing and forcing down your own interpretation of what you said. And it also allows you to clear it up. Like, I can see how it sounded that way. What I meant to say was, or what I intended to say was, and it'll stop an argument before it even happens. So try that and follow me.
So here's another flight I'm watching on Flight Radar 24. Delta Airlines, flying out of Cape Town, South Africa, going to Atlanta. It's a long flight, about 13,000 kilometers, and it's going to be flying for about 15 hours. Want to see what that flight looks like on a flat Earth? Crossing over most of Africa, crossing the Atlantic Ocean here, just skirting the edges of Canada, approaching from New England, and coming in from the northeast. You want to see their actual flight route? Flying nowhere near Africa, skirting the edge of South America, coming up over the Caribbean, and approaching Atlanta from the southeast. I wonder what that looks like on Google Earth. Yeah, it's a straight line. A straight line. What do planes do to save time and gas? Oh yeah, they fly in straight lines.
We just found the building blocks for DNA on an asteroid.
I feel like I need to draw this highly specifically for people to get the magnitude of this discovery. Okay, this is planet Earth. Right here, this is beautiful little planet Earth, right? What they are literally saying is that an asteroid could, quote unquote, I'm going to draw this very specifically, in a very particular shape, impregnate a planet and give it life. What does that look like to you? Do you understand the magnitude of that discovery?
Hey friends, so Chris Bledsoe speaks often of his encounter with the lady and how he was told that on Easter of 2026, in 1 year, that, ooh, look at that big old bird there. It's a great heron. Anyways, that on Easter of 2026, when the red star Regulus is in the gaze of the Sphinx at the Great Pyramid of Giza, that a new knowledge will be bestowed upon humanity. Now, these are very powerful words, and it made me think, okay, let's assume this is all, you know, legit. I mean, I have no reason not to trust Chris. He's a very genuine and amazing person. I love Chris as a human, and I think he's telling the truth here. So let's assume this is all correct. What is this new knowledge that's going to be bestowed upon humanity? That's very powerful words. And why now? It made me think, like, this seems to be like a time-released kind of an instance. Like, why now? Why has this knowledge been kept hidden from us for thousands of years, but now we need it? And there's almost like a sense of urgency. So it made me think, and it made me research. And here's what I found, and I think this is going to blow your mind. Okay, so I found some information from Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. If you don't know, he's one of the most famous prophets